Welcome, everyone. Letting the room fill up a bit for about a minute. Make sure everyone is in before we get started. I'm speaking from Brazil in São Paulo. I don't know where you guys are from, but be sure to put it in the chat. Like this, we can see where everyone is from. And then just a quick FYI, and I'm going to say this again throughout the talk, but for those of you who are already here, we do take questions throughout the conversation. You don't need to wait until the end of the conversation. So feel free to put any question in the chat box below, and we'll get to your questions as soon as possible, okay? We like this to be as interactive and fun as possible. All right, let's see where you guys are from. Argentina, Costa Rica, Mexico, Argentina. Hi, everyone. All right, I think that's everyone for now. So I think we can get started. From Mexico too, great, amazing. Peru, so we have a big Latin American crowd here today. So I think, Mayara, we're the only Brazilians so far.
Yeah, nice to meet everyone. I hope I can somehow help you guys on tips and being inspireful on, I don't know, pursuing a career abroad.
Oh, we have a Brazilian, woohoo. Hi.
Yay.
All right, so let's get started. So welcome, Mayara Schmidt, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the Nomad Talk. We're so excited to talk to you today about your journey and how you went from being an art director at school in Brazil to a creative in Berlin. I'm just going to read a quick bio on Mayara, and of course she can speak more in detail about these things. And I'm also going to paste in her LinkedIn and her portfolio in the chat below, so you guys can check out some of her work in more detail if you would like throughout the talk as well. So Mayara started out at Sapient Nitro in 2015, then a creative intern at Chimney in Berlin, back to Brazil at Actual Mix, I hope I'm saying that right, VMLY&R, and finally Berlin again in 2018 for a couple of agencies, and now she is at MediaMonks. She has also been recognized at One Show, Clio, and the Webby Awards, amongst others. So welcome, Mayara. That's an impressive resume.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it seems a long path, but it's actually quite a short career. You don't be impressed by that at all. I think it's what I can more help you guys today. It's on how to lose this I think this fear and jump on whatever country you guys want to go. You know, it's I know it seems a bit scary doing this sort of thing and becoming an immigrant, because it's a one-way road. You know, there's no coming back from being an immigrant. Once you are, you will always be, to my eyes. So yeah, let's have a talk.
That's a great place to start, because I think I often say, and talking to students and things like that, the first step does always seem like the scariest step.
Yeah.
Which is the starting the process or believing in it or saying, okay, I'm going to go for it. That's always like that leap of faith that it requires a little bit of a leap of faith, right?
Totally. I think my English was so horrible when I arrived here. I had a baby expressions. I couldn't express myself properly. And I think in 3 years, I'm talking whatever other international. So one thing I can already say upfront to you guys, it's don't be afraid, you know, just come and try. And with time, you will get on track. You will learn how to do stuff, you know, it's almost like mimicking people around you. You will survive. It seems scary, but it's also super doable.
So yeah, for sure. So I thought we could get started with you maybe showing a sample of your work, so we could get to know your creative mind a little bit more, and then we'll dive right into questions.
Okay, I can share the most recent work I did. It was for a brand called L'Occitane. So the brief was that the client felt like the brand was a bit outdated and they wanted to communicate to millennials. But how to talk to millennials when you have a brand that smells naphthalene, let's say, like it's a super old brand. And this project I did when I was about to leave Anomaly. But the idea, I think a creative director came with the insight, cultivating is our sixth sense. So it's a super cool concept, and I think it's a refreshment for a brand that was very traditional. And my contribution to that was how we could solve this visually, like the film, how we could solve as a film. And my idea was that the farmers on Provence, they're so into nature. The people that are part of L'Occitane, they care so much about nature that they're like the blind people, like blind people, they dream about like light shadows. Their dreams are with the senses that they have, the senses that they know. And this is for the farmers. The farmers, they dream about through the Provence fields, they dream with the lavender smells and the almonds, blah, blah, blah. So this is a
very sensorial, very
yes, super
amazing.
So here is the film.
I can feel it happening again. I can see the soil swallowing my soul. I can hear the fields rolling through my veins. I can taste the trees submerging my thoughts. I can smell my blood running lavender. And until the end, I can tell that tomorrow will be just like today.
Yeah, so that's the idea. I think we had like to fit in the budget. So how we solved was like going to these Provence fields and finding ways of trippy ways, literally speaking, of how to sell the mood of being in nature. So yeah,
with a different look. Can you tell us about the tagline? Because I think it's cultivating is a sixth sense.
Is our sixth sense. So
our sixth sense.
It's like cultivating is that different thing that L'Occitane has. The L'Occitane people, workers, they have that they're like it's not just a product that they invest some chemicals in there. They are literally into nature. So yeah, that's the idea.
Amazing. So are there any other sort of curious stories that you can tell us about this project? Like, did you go to shoot on site, or how was that process?
So unfortunately, the shooting happened right when the COVID started, and I was personally a bit threatened. So I prefer to go only to the product shooting, which happened here in Berlin. So they had like this is one piece of the campaign. So they had the film shooting and the product shooting. So I was more involved in the product shooting. I was really worried about COVID at first. But I think what's cool about this project is that like the films, the idea was at first to have 3 films, like one per ingredient, one for lavender, one for verbena, and one for almond. But I think we also have to face the reality of the budget. So we narrowed it down, combining it all, sort of a manifesto in the name of the nature. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's always interesting to hear these sort of backstories, because I often find in these talks that every creative talks about how much the idea shifts throughout the process.
Completely.
So it starts, like you said, oh, it was going to be one for each scent or for each fragrance, and then it just changes.
When we are in the project, we dream big, and then we are like facing the reality, shaping here and there until it gets published,
Yeah, and then you could totally sell it as like, yeah, that's totally what I thought about from the start. Of course. Are you kidding me?
Completely. I think on our portfolios, it's up to us to sell the story of how it all happened, So I think we can tell whatever we want as long as it's real. It's up to us to tell the story.
Yeah. So the topic of our conversation tonight, the main topic, is sort of how to further your creative international career, or how to, I suppose, accelerate too if someone is already on the path.
Okay.
So I would love for you to start talking about sort of the beginning of that journey, sort of your relationship to Germany, how you got there, and if you can recall those first moments, because like we were saying before, very often those first steps do feel like the biggest, most unsurmountable, crazy, scary moments.
Yeah, I think I was a super country girl in the south of Brazil. I think to me, like going to São Paulo was the biggest move I could ever make, and which is already something, you know, it's super cool. But the moment like I was told that there was this possibility of the quarter away of studying abroad, was like mind-blowing for me. I started thinking like, why not, you know, like why not living somewhere else and getting to know an exotic culture. Like I have the German heritage, because I think as most countries that were colonized, I have an immigrant family, so I had this background, and I think it was like a win-win decision. I wanted to see what's up about Germany, you know, what's up about this part of my past, but also what's up about living abroad. And the school was here, so I think
So what year was
it was
this?
kind of impulsive, you know, like I just decided like let's see what there is in Germany, what there is here.
What year was this, Mayara, when you
It
first
was
went to Germany?
2016, 5 years ago.
Seems
So,
like a lifetime ago already, I'm sure.
yes, it was super cool. I had seen like snow for the first time, and it was like a totally a cultural shock. And I told you guys before, my English was really, really awful, but I learned, you know, like I dared to speak English. And I think the good thing of like daring to travel is like the international, the markets, these agencies, they like us. They like these professionals that they are not like the locals. We have like a cultural baggage that sheds a different light to their products, to their thinking, to the average. So I think we are always having this plus of having a different life experience that they cannot offer because they were raised where they are, you know.
So you do think that agencies really value this sort of universal language of ideas and creativity? And then as for the language, just to get into it a little bit more specifically, did you take any classes, or were you more just like practicing in your daily life and picking it up as you went along?
I learned with life. I took some classes, but my English was, I think, on an intermediary level. And with time, I got experience. I literally, I think people around me had to have the patience. And with time, my vocabulary expanded. And nowadays, I'm able to sell campaign to clients. So I don't have problems. I think after a few years, it's all fine.
Mm-hmm. So with this move, because like I mentioned earlier when I was reading your bio, you were in Brazil, then you moved to Germany, then you came back to Brazil, and now you're in Germany again for a while now.
Yeah.
So I wanted you to take me through that journey too. Sort of what was that experience like, and what were some key moments that stood out to you in terms of this path? Sort of what changed along the way? What did you bring back from Germany to Brazil, or what did you take from Brazil to Germany? Like what, creatively speaking, how did that journey work for you?
Yeah, I think the back and forth, it's part of like the process of accepting that, as I said, is a one-way road, you know, like after having this experience of living abroad, I never ever felt again the same. Like I never felt like I belonged to just one place again. When I was in Brazil, I was missing Germany. When I went to Germany, I was kind of missing here and there Brazil, and I still do. So I think it's accepting that you will. I think the concept, there is a TED talk that from a speaker that I love, and she's South African, but she lived in Canada, and she says, "Where are you a local?" And she says, like, the places you have lived, you start off like disrupting this concept of nationality. So I kind of feel that way too. Like I'm a local on where my hometown is, and I'm a local here in Berlin. I'm a local in San Pablo. So I think you carry a bit of this cultural baggage from these places. And I think from Germany, for sure, it's the thing of you gotta test everything first. They're so efficient, so precise and things. And Brazil, I think we have this, I think the whole South America in general, we improvised a lot. Like we have to deal with our reality with not so many resources. So we are like more freestyle, more free to do stuff. So I think adding here and there when it's needed, I think a bit of efficiency, it's always good, but also improvising. It's super interesting, brings some creativity, that it's the dealing with the unexpected.
Yeah, it's very interesting. You were talking now, and it was reminding me of a Brazilian scientist that was telling me that she does these expeditions like in the islands in the middle of nowhere, and she said that when the American team or the British team, if the machine broke, they said, okay, let's go back to the cabin and stay there until the machine is fixed. And she said the South Americans were like, let's get a bottle and put some string and then test it like this, and then they would find ways of testing with very little budget. So it just, yeah, I guess it's not just an advertising.
I think like for example on my work, it quite often already happened that like sometimes we didn't have like a motion designer and we needed some last minute animation to work on. I'm not a motion designer, but I think I Google like
you made it work.
Yes, I made it work. Like I Google quickly on After Effects, and we delivered some animation, you know.
Amazing. So I wanted to circle back a bit and talk about your experience at school, at Miami Ad School in Brazil. So can you tell me sort of what you picked up on? What were the best things you learned in school as an art director? And then any advice that you have on how people can perfect their craft on art direction, because maybe some people who are listening will be starting out as an art director or thinking about starting out as an art director.
Okay, so I think what I can say to all of you guys actually is that I wasn't like the most outstanding student. I'm super on the average, but I think what makes me to really enjoy the school and pursue a bit more was that I fell in love for photography. I think I'm sure you guys will find at least one class which is like the class of your life, you know, like it's that class that makes everything worth. And to me, it was photography in studio classes. So I loved this class. I can even share, I had separated two works that I did when I was a student. And these pieces were the pieces that got the job at Anomaly that I had when I
you can totally show us. That'd be great, because it's interesting because it's a photography project. So yeah. I think that speaks volumes about how now the industry is not really looking for a person that does one thing, but rather sees things through lots of different lenses.
Yeah, I think the moment, let's say like in a very super future, when you become a big boss, obviously you gotta be super good at something. But being, I think, from senior down, like when you're not ahead of it yet, you gotta be good at everything. So this is one project I did when I was a student. This is like the concept was single image, lots of imagination. So the idea was you can see with Lego, you can create whatever you want. So the idea here was like a heart and 2 swans. And I did this in a photo in studio work. So it was like I bought this, it's like a platform, a green platform of Lego, and I bought the pieces. And then I did the sculpture and I took the photo and the teacher helped me. And when my ex-ECD saw this, he was like super amazed because it was a craft work. And other 2 projects that he liked, this it's an old version that once I got a feedback that had too many like too many techniques, was super messy. And then I started thinking, like, how can I solve this? How can I make this to look a bit more decent and more in a more quality? Then I came with this paper cut idea, and I literally cut it piece by piece, what you're seeing here, and I built this sculpture with banana tapes, like to create the shadows and layering. Like everything you see here, it's paper and was cutted. So these were like the only 2 student projects that actually got me a job, my first cool job, I can say.
Very cool. So any advice then for people who want to sort of further their art direction craft?
I think at first I would say just try it out, like it's the moment to not be obsessed about one technique, unless you're like an artist from birth. Then it's another story. But when you don't know exactly what field on art direction you want, because it's so huge, like you can become more closer to film direction, you can work more with photo in studio, or you can work even on 3D, like that, or even, I don't know, there are many things that you can work with. So try it out. At least know how to open all the Adobe programs, I would say, to have a knowledge of things, and try to do stuff a bit here and there. And with time, I'm sure like people will feel that you are performing better in this area or that area. And with time, you will get the sense that, oh, okay, I think I'm good at this. I think I'm good at that. With time, you will figure out what you're good at, actually.
Yeah. So now, of course, you've transitioned to being, as I saw on your LinkedIn, a multidisciplinary creative, which again, I think speaks a lot about, sorry?
It's a beautiful word, but
yeah, but it, like we were saying before, I think it really shows how the industry is shifting, to beyond the traditional roles, and that you love all things visual. And I was looking at your portfolio, and I felt like a lot of things in your portfolio felt very sort of dreamlike. So I think it's great that you showed the L'Occitan piece, because that one looks very sort of dreamlike.
Dreamy.
Exactly, yeah, and I could sort of see that thread in your work. So how do you define your work nowadays, if you define it at all? Was there a conscious process in terms of furthering your work in this direction? So tell me a little bit about that.
It's completely life happening, like one thing that was a constant was that I never said no to a task, which can be tricky in the future. But I know that right now it's only been giving me positive things of like not saying no to stuff, like I'm trying it out. And maybe what can be the overall thing is that I try to push to concepting, even if it's just concepting a visual, a mood board. If I'm not part of the concept, literally the headline, I try to push to the visual aesthetic overall. So I think try to find something that you really like to do. For example, I don't mind to do tons of mockups as long as I can concept visually. I think this is, for me, it's like the water, what keeps me alive, and I don't get frustrated. Like I can do whatever boring job that you ask, but I'm also like I love to concept. So this is, I think it's a key assignment for me. And I would say to you guys, find what you really like to do. I know this will come with time, but negotiate this with like your employer, or the moment you are getting the job, like tell them what you really like to do, tell them what are your yeses and nos, and with time you will find this balance, I guess, on a daily task, because things has to be done,
Definitely. Sometimes we do have to do the boring tasks, and it's okay.
Exactly. There's no runaway.
So we have the first question from Carla Lucia. She's asking you, what were your main cultural challenges? Are European people open, to hearing Latino ideas? What was your experience?
I think they have to be, because otherwise they would be losing money. They hired us, so they have to listen to us. And if you feel like you're not being listened, literally make a scene and say, hey, I have something to say, I have something to contribute in a meeting. Hey, I have here an insight. Don't be afraid of not telling stuff and whatever, if you are Latino or not. I think the moment you leave your country, you are an international. Doesn't matter if you're an Asian, doesn't matter if you're a Latino or European. It's whatever the gringos, we can do our job.
Yeah, it sounds like from what you're speaking, also it sounds as if like you have to have a certain degree of confidence to also do those things, like raise your hand and say, hey, I have something to say. So
the worst that can
there's nothing wrong with faking it till you make it. So just fake that confidence in the beginning, fake it, and you'll get there.
And when you notice, everyone listening to you, and they will like saying, yeah, do this. Don't worry.
We have another question from Wai Tong. He's asking, when do you think is the best time to change jobs? I ask this because in this demanding sector, sometimes there are careers in a company that last only a couple of months, or jobs in a company that last only a couple of months.
This is super personal. From my experience, for example, I changed to MediaMonks because the ECD that I had at my old job had left the agency. So I felt like maybe it's the chance of pursuing another job at another place. So feel like to me, I think it's the people that make the agency. It's not the label of an old traditional agency. It's a lot about who are the creative leaders that are they inspireful enough? If they're not being inspireful for you, you don't have to be there. Life is too short for you to not be inspired at a workplace. Mm-hmm. Seems a bit but it's how it is, I guess.
So Lu is asking, what would you recommend when building a portfolio? Send it to companies or start building your social media presence to get noticed?
I don't have an Instagram. I rarely get in on my Facebook. I usually
You don't have any social media?
I have WhatsApp and Telegram.
That's not social media, I think. Is it?
Yeah, I don't have social media.
I don't think it qualifies as social media. You are off grid. Good for you.
I have a Facebook, but it's kind of dead. I only use Messenger. So I think it can work to be recognized. I think mainly if you are a poet, maybe you have some super nice text that you want to post online, and you want a career that it's not only on advertising, because I think being a creative, it's way more than just working in agencies. You can work on a production company, you can work in a studio, you can work in an editorial world. So I think try to think what are the places you would like to work. And if you see, for example, for books and publishing, of course, it's interesting to have a presence online. For maybe a studio, it will also be interesting, but for agencies, it's not that much interesting. It's, at least for me, I was never required to be online.
Yeah, and I feel like that's also so personal, because I think if a creative loves social media, for example, and they love to create for social media, then it makes so much sense to start building your social media presence maybe, and then approach a company. But if someone is not, it's kind of hard to force it too. If you had to.
And I think also about the portfolio, as I told you guys, I had 2 decent projects, and then I think other 4, 6 projects that were kind of okay. They were not pulling down the good projects, but they were sustaining the good ones, So if you have a few projects that are good enough, it's already that piece that maybe your future creative lead will see hey, I need a person that handles this sort of thing, so I will hire you because of that piece. It's not because of the whole portfolio. They don't have time to look at it all, so don't worry that much on having everything perfect. Of course you have to pursue this, but don't get too much stressed about it.
So you had how many pieces of work in your original portfolio?
When I was a student, I think I had only 6, 7 maximum, and I think they were super like random. The good was only 2, you know.
And do you put those on top then? It's sort of highlighting
Yeah.
those.
No, I had like that technique, like you organize that I think what was then his name? It's a guy from Brazil, the copywriter from Brazil. He wrote once this guide saying like organize your portfolio from the very best to the worst, and then you get the first piece and put it to the end. So your second piece, your second best piece, it's already like calling attention. And when they see the crap in the middle, they ended up like, oh my God, this is also good, you know? And then they see your contact right after the super good piece. So that's how I organize my portfolio.
Good tip. So I now have a couple questions for you. And meanwhile, keep sending your questions in, guys. These are great. So thank you for sending them. How important do you think specific clients have been in terms of you developing your work abroad? Because I mean, you were mentioning that you're sort of a very good, from what you're saying, team player. Like, okay, of course I'll do this. I'll, get on this job and I'll do this. And so how important has that been in your development? Do you think there is a specific client that shaped you in a really specific way? You're like, oh, wow, that client was special, or not? I don't know.
Yeah, it's actually no. I think whatever client we have to deal with this. I think what's exciting is having the problem and making it desirable again. It's I know some people prefer some here in that client, but I like to work with whatever kind we have and making it interesting. But there is one project that I think it was like it's being my introducing cards to recruiters when I reach them, and it's a project that I did I think 2 years ago for Himova. It's a suitcase brand.
Yeah, you could show one of those, the video.
Yeah. So we had like 5 talents in the first campaign. Was Nobu Matsuhisha, Yunnan, Adwa Abwa. Like I can show here the mood boards actually of each human, then the manifesto. So this is a mood board from Adwa Abwa. She was like overcoming depression, and before COVID, we had all talk about people getting to being fearless and traveling and blah, blah, blah. So Nobu Matsuhisha, he opened like tons of restaurants around the globe, federal, don't need an explanation.
Abriu o arquivo do KV
I think someone might have their mic open, no?
Abriu o arquivo do KV e aí, tipo, esse arquivo ele tá...
Yeah, just to make sure you don't play the video over.
It's fine. Yeah. Then Virgil and Yunnan. So the manifesto we did is this one.
Mastery. Mastery is a moving target. Yet there are those determined to chase it. Those who aren't defined by where they've gone, but by where they have yet to go. They travel to reach more than a destination. They don't just leave their comfort zones. They don't have them at all. They believe that purposeful ambitions demand resilient companions. Because the most meaningful journeys last longer than a trip. They last a lifetime.
Yeah, so I think this is the project that I think most recruiters love when they see, and the creative directors also think it's cool, and I'm super proud of.
I wanted to ask you now about awards then. How important do you think are awards in this process of doing your international career abroad?
Depends on the agency you're gonna work at. For example, MediaMonks loves awards. They really like it. Anomaly hates awards, so they only like the F's, for example, so really depends on the agency you are at. But I think awards are good to negotiate salaries. I think this is really, really good to negotiate stuff. And if you need a visa in the future, awards will be required. So whatever country you're going, so they're good. They doesn't hurt, I would say, but they are not important.
Mm-hmm. So it's important to know the profile of the agency too, what they
definitely.
prefer.
I think I can for sure tell you guys, MediaMonks is an agency that values it, and then the Anomaly doesn't care at all. And if you like too much of awards, I think Anomaly wouldn't like you, so get to know the agencies
before applying. Yeah, a lot of times I think we have dreams of, I want to work for this agency, but then when you start digging deep, it's like, actually, maybe might not be the best fit, and maybe one.
You can shape your portfolio. You can always have like an about page that have an award, and about page that doesn't have awards. So you can enable and enable your different abouts, depending on the interview you're getting.
That's smart. One more good tip. So let's, I think, start diving right into your tips, because I know you sent me a pretty extensive, amazing list that I think covers so many topics. You guys are going to love this. So I'm going to let you sort of take the lead on this one with your tips, and then I'll come in with questions in between. And for anyone who's listening, you guys can also send in questions, okay? Continue to send in questions.
Yeah, I think I can actually paste what I wrote to you guys on the chat, and then I can go like commenting on them.
Great.
So let me just copy the text. 1 second. Okay, so why I'm not able to paste it? Do you have the text?
I do. Do you want me to send it on here in the chat? Okay, so I'll do it, and you can take it away.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I think what I wrote like as a first step, and I already told you guys, I think you don't have to have like tons of super cool projects, like have one really, really good project, and maybe like another 3 pieces, because the people you're going to talk to, the recruiters, they don't have time to take a look at like thousands and thousands of projects. So having like at least 3 and some other good ones that won't pull down your portfolio overall, it's already enough. And I think then the moment you are gonna track the recruiters, I think try to see what are the city that you would like to consider to live in, where you would live. Maybe like for me, I took a look in Amsterdam and Berlin mainly. So I chased these recruiters and started talking to them, and Berlin ended up working. So I think this is one option. I think asking around, it's always like a classic thing, works for everyone. And check the agency's HR, because it really works. The job I got at MediaMonks, I brought directly to the recruiter, and
it actually works.
Yes, it works. And I had actually got a job in London, but then I negotiated with them, and they said they were opening an office here in Berlin, so I didn't have to move out. I kept my flat, and I'm still living in Berlin. So reach out to the HRs of the places you want to live at, because it works, like sometimes you'll be like in a vacuum forever, but most of the time they will reply you at some point. And then I think when you write about the emails, I divided per 2 situations. I think there is one situation when there's already a role, like you get on a website and you see like, hey, there's a graphic designer role, for example. So I think in that email, you can be a bit more straightforward, You can write directly, like saying like, I wrote here, like when there's already a role, you write your name, your actual role, like I'm a student or I'm a junior, I am a recent formed at my M.AD school, I passed by this and that agency, I did an internship here and there, and tell them where are you based or where are you about to move out? For example, if you're about to move out to Berlin, tell them, because it's important for them to know where you are, where you're living, or where you're moving out. And if you are already in the city, it's infinitely easier. And then just paste your portfolio and sign with the blah, 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 looking forward, hope we can chat. I hope I may be a good fit for your creative team, this sort of thing. And when there is not a role, but maybe it's like you write to that dream agency, you know, like a super cool agency that you always wanted to work at. I think in those emails, it's like when you're having the interview, you know, you make yourself an interview by email. So you tell what things you imagine the recruiter will gonna ask when there is not a role. I think you can ask, because when there is a role, then you're expecting to have an interview. So you tell this blah, blah, blah in the interview yourself, you know, maybe by email or by a chat, a video chat, or in person. But when there is not a role, I think I recommend to you guys to think like, what are your ambitions? What are the things you're aiming for? Where do you want to go? It's super important for the recruiters to track what's your profile, what's the things you like to work with, and what's the sort of project that you would like to work at. So they need to understand where you are and where you want to be. It's not about like where do I want to be in 10 years? It's not about that. It's where you want to be in the next year, in the next project.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to track this sort of thing, you know. And I think
it's almost like a Tinder for they're matching the profile.
Exactly, that's their job. They have to match the best creatives for each team, and you will certainly fit somewhere. You know, don't worry about it. And I think something that is super important, and more than one person told me like that. It's good when the emails, the headlines of your email, it's straightforward. Like, don't be cocky, don't be petty about your email, you know, like most of the time I always write like, check out this portfolio / art director, you know, and you will make them curious about your work. Or like copywriter with a brand new project moving out to LA, like in the headline, you're already telling like, hey, I'm moving out to your city and I have new projects. Take a look at this portfolio.
So give it a more practical approach.
Yes, making them curious about it, you know. And I think when you write your email, be super assertive. Don't let them smell doubt, you know. I think if they smell that you're not confident about what you want, if you're not assertive about your next step, and if you're not sure that you really want to work for them, they won't give you a chance. I think they have a bunch of people that are more sure, that they don't have doubts. I think being assertive, it's super, super important.
Cool.
And what else I wrote? Then, yeah, I think I just wrote like, keep sending emails. It's not that.
So right now we're in the relationship aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to send it in the chat, by the way, but I think the problem is that the text is too big for the chat, and I think that's why it's not working. So I could try to ask whoever has the mailing list for everyone who's in the talk to send it to them after.
I'm sending by steps.
Perfect.
It's good that you mentioned it. Let me try per step.
Yeah, now it's working. Perfect.
Okay. I think it has to be even less. Okay, one more.
Now we're in step 2, the relationship.
Yes. So I think the relationship, it's like okay, you got the job you wanted, and keeping in contact with the recruiter, you know, like tell them if you're liking your job, tell them if you want to move out, or send them the projects you're working on, because maybe, you know, there is like another agency that can give you and even a new other opportunity, because the recruiter saw that your recent project was like super good, super fresh, and she thinks it could be a match for that other agency. So you can like travel around the world, you know, like it's just keep in touch with them. And if you don't have like this relationship with some independent recruiter, for example, there are the tools on LinkedIn that you can flag you're available or you're browsing for a job. So use, this is a social media that I use. And I think LinkedIn, it's always a good platform to chat to people and to make connections. It's not about making friends, it's about networking with people. This is super, super important to keep in touch with them. Even if you're not like a super best friend of someone, keep in touch, talk to them, show your work. It's not about posting things and showing yourself. I think this helps, but just tell what's going on, you know. I think this is super helpful. At least it's been working for me.
So when you say write up tips that they gave you, you mean the recruiters too? The tips that the
Yes.
recruiters are giving to you?
Totally. Like, for example, once I talked to this super, super badass recruiter in Amsterdam, and I was telling her, because I did like University of Advertising, then I did half course of social sciences. Then I was still a student doing my M.AD school with 20 something. And I told her that I felt guilty because I'm a typical millennial. I procrastinated my adulthood as much as I could. So, and then she like, this is gold, Mayara, you should tell people this. And she said, like, I will give you an assignment, like write your life story and send to me. And I think this was super inspireful. I got the actual job that I have because I wrote this letter. And I think this helped me, I think, to not be ashamed of, for example, in my case, I felt like I was a student for too long. And she actually thinks like it's from person to person, you know, and she thought that she could know me better when I told this thing. So she said, I think this is a good tip. I think these people, they see so many other people that were in our position before, that get to know young professionals. Just listen to them and do what they ask. Even if you feel embarrassed, try it, you know, it won't hurt. And I also separated some other links, which I think they could be super interesting, like some podcasts and things that I think you guys can get inspired when looking for a job. I would just post here. I think it's if you are on the mood, you know, it's not something that you have all the time to be looking at, but I think this can be a good tip to stalk and hunt for jobs.
I'll post in step 3 as well. I think we missed step 3 in the chat here. There.
Oh, sorry. I will post.
No worries.
Okay.
Did it show up? I think I put it, but let me see. Let me
I think here are the emails of MediaMonks people. Toby, he's a recruiter of MediaMonks Europe, and Ricardo is from the MediaMonks Berlin. Just write to them. They're hiring a bunch of people. And yeah, it will be, I'm sure they will at least take a look at your work. It's just try, you know, why not start with them? I recommend.
Wow, that's amazing. This is a great tip, you guys. Write this down. Write these addresses down.
I hope it helps.
Definitely. So I do have a couple of questions left for you. And then guys, we'll be wrapping up in about 5 minutes. So if you have any more questions left, please put it in the chat. Thoughts on personal projects. Do you have any thoughts on whether it belongs in a portfolio? Would you avoid it?
No, I wouldn't avoid it. I think if you like don't have that much of a professional experience, if you haven't like never gone for shooting, for example, if you don't have many stuff to add on your portfolio, of course a side project would help. But I don't think don't go get crazy about it, you know, because I never had one and I'm here. So it's good to have, you know, don't listen to me on this part. Have it, try it. And sometimes can even be like you have just some photos that you took somewhere and they have some artsy quality. try to develop a storyline about it, you know, like make the project grows with a story. Like sometimes we have so many design projects that the design was born first than the idea, you know, like you find an explanation after having the project itself. So maybe you can find a way on turning around and just experiment some stuff, and then you find an explanation for it, and then you have your said project, you know.
Great. Also, in light of everything that's been happening the last couple of years, are there any sort of updated tips that you have in terms of what people who are looking for furthering their international creative career, is there anything that they need to keep in mind of something that's shifted or that's changed a lot that you've noticed, or any tips for someone, I suppose, who's going to start this process right now?
I think it's like I said, don't be afraid, you know, like everyone starts from somewhere. So just try it, just go and do it. And what I can say, have at least one decent, good project and write to everyone you can. I think somewhere, I'm really sure somewhere you will find your place. And from there you can kick off your career, you know, just start, just try it, I would say. And in terms of like the overall aesthetic that I'm seeing, it depends. Like I think Anomaly it's so different from MediaMonks in terms of the way they do their work. Like before it was super conceptual, and now it's more like a handcraft. Like we really like care about photography, and they even have their own studio in local, you know, for work. So I think try to track the agencies that you're working at. What's the latest projects they did? I think stalk the people, you know, that you're possibly going to work for. I think this is the best thing, I guess.
Great. And my last question is, what's the number one thing that you think has kept you motivated throughout these years? Moving here, moving there, just to maybe someone who's listening can remember that in a moment of doubt.
Oh, financial independence, money. It's this motivates me a lot. I think I think the first jobs we will get, do not accept tough. I think a tough salary is unacceptable, but a tight salary at first, it's kind of everywhere, unfortunately. But then after this first job, then we will have already some professional works, and this will be so helpful that I'm sure you guys will start achieving the financial independence, because after all, this is just a job, you know, it's a career, and we need to get a life. And the good thing of living abroad is like a whole new world for us to get to know, and a culture, you know, it's like a living, and sometimes you have a vacation in the city that you're living at, you know. So it's think also that it's just a job. Don't worry so much, you know, worry, but not that much. Don't go crazy, I would say.
Yeah, and like you said, it's so inspiring to be somewhere else.
Okay, exactly.
That
you know,
maybe
awesome.
whatever obstacle you're facing in that moment, if you could just stop and look like, wow, but I'm in this city, that's so cool, having this amazing experience, and then maybe going to a different city after that.
Yeah, and there is also no problem on coming back home sometimes and having like some time home, you know, like because you have the baggage abroad. It's always like it's never losing, you know, it's always a gain. Like you will always have more experience. The more you work, the more experience you will get, and it's kind of obvious, but with time, things will settle. I think. Don't worry, guys.
All right, so I think that wraps up our Nomad Talk with you, Mayara. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for offering this amazing list. I myself have worked abroad, and looking at it, I'm like, wow, that's really generous of you. Not everyone has this sort of spirit of sharing. So thank you so much for sharing that with everyone, and all the links and all your experience. We have some people thanking you here already in the chat. So yeah, thank you so much for being here tonight. And if you have any parting words for those who are listening.
It's just, I don't know, I hope you guys like the links. I hope you guys take the school seriously and don't waste time and dare to travel, because the course passed so fast. when you see it's like me, it's 5 years that I finished the course. So enjoy this time. It's a super rich moment where you have an easy access to the best professionals. So I don't know. I hope you all have a good time as a student, and I hope to work with maybe some of you in the future.
Amazing. So thank you so much, Mayara.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for being here. Be sure to check in on our next Nomad Talk. It takes place in a couple of weeks. So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for participating and for your questions. And good night, everyone, and good luck in all of your international careers.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.